So Blake Lively was just caught grabbing her co-star on camera and owning up to the fact that this was improvised. Plus, she's responding to Jed Wallace's lawsuit, and we're going to get into all of the Erika Jayne Marco legal drama that has been unfolding because attorney Ronald Richards, or as I like to call him, Ronald McDonald, seems to be running his little fingers on Twitter again. So let's get into it. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. Welcome on in, everybody in the club. Let's get it. What's up, everybody? Hello. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Wanda. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Elwell. Hi, Danielle. Hi, PB. Hi, Gail. Hi, Tanya. What's up, everybody? Very quickly, just wanted to give a little shout out for this very sweet review that I got on Apple Podcasts. You know, I love when you give us reviews on Apple Podcasts, so please continue to give us some reviews on Apple Podcasts. This one comes from Danny Rotz. Funny and intelligent. Danny says, I came for the Baldoni, but stayed for the truth advocacy. Zach's personality is unmatched. The sass, the straightforward way in which he delivers stories, all while keeping to give the truth while staying neutral and playing devil's advocate. It's very much appreciated and needed these days where biases are everywhere. He truly cares about the community he has built. I watch a lot of Zach's podcasts, but Zach is the only one. Each day, I make a point of watching live on YouTube so I can interact with him and the Zach Pack community. Now we just need coconut tree merch. Love you, Zach. You know, there is a high demand for coconut tree merch, which to me, I'm kind of like, should we just do the coconut tree merch? I don't know. Some people are like, do it, and then some people are like, don't do it. So I don't know, TBD. I was just listening to Victoria Lee on Nick Viall. Okay, thank you, Lindsay, for bringing that up. So Tom Sandoval and Victoria were scheduled to come on No Filter. Like, we've been trying to schedule this and make it happen for weeks, and they've been out of town and yada yada yada. We've been trying to make it happen for weeks, right? And so I believe they had Nick Viall, me, and one other podcast that were all scheduled. Then next thing you know I'm trying to confirm the time with them, and then I am told that I guess Nick Viall and his team have this exclusivity when it comes to guests, which is also just number one, screwed up in podcasting world in general. Like if a guest is going to do multiple podcasts, then you know what? It is what it is. Whoever gets first, distribution is whoever gets it, right? Sometimes people take a week to release the episode. Sometimes people turn it around in 24 hours. But so Nick Viall has this thing where if you come on his podcast, you're not allowed to go on other podcasts until his podcast airs. So he blocked my interview with Tom Sandoval and Victoria. I don't have an update on them. I kind of stopped following up. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they'll come. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But Nick Viall wanted to go and block that. And so whatever, which by the way, my team did reach out to his and see if he would actually sit down with me and discuss all of the Baldoni stuff. And he declined. So yeah, I was right. He doesn't actually care to have a real conversation with somebody that doesn't agree with him. So, yeah, there you go. Welcome to Reality says, I think I'm officially Zactified. I think I'm thinking and responding to situations with a more moderate, thoughtful, yet slightly snarky vibe. I love that. Nicole says, who cares? He's not interesting. And she's definitely, but I mean, I liked them. I was very much in support of, keeping this now that people were finally coming back around and moving on from Scandival. And I thought Tom Sandoval was definitely a delight on the Traders. Like he was funny when he was singing and there were all the memes that were being made about him. And so I was like, yeah, I think that this is absolutely Tom Sandoval's redemption arc. I've been, with the exception for Scandival era, where I definitely had my critiques of Sandoval, he's been on my podcast. He's been in my live shows. Like we've never had a bad relationship. I remember running into him one time, like months and months after all the Scandival drama. And we were both at the Bourbon Room for, we have a mutual friend, Kyle, who had a launch for his new whiskey. Gold Bar whiskey, and he was celebrating at the Bourbon Room. So I was there. I saw Tom. I went up to him, and I was just, it was very nice. And I was like, "Listen, I can't imagine being at the center of this scandal." Had I said the same thing similar to Ariana, had I had the opportunity to see Rachel Raquel out, I would have absolutely said the same thing, because despite what my job is and having to cover things, or what my personal opinions are, just seeing somebody at the center of a big scandal like that and having the world against them is not easy. So is what it is. No, we don't need to boycott Nick Viall. It's fine. It's just I don't like when people try to. I mean, that's a very clear tactic to try and hinder any other podcaster in this game while trying to position yourself as the authority. You have to stoop to those types of games of blocking people's interviews because, what, you're afraid that somebody else is going to get the scoop. Well, then if somebody else gets the scoop and they're able to trump your interview in some way, then that sounds like a poor reflection of your own podcast. If you need to have 15 podcast co-hosts do your research for you and formulate your opinions, and you have to have your team block interviews from other podcasts, then good for you. Do all the gatekeeping you need to do. Yoni says unpopular opinion, but I still feel bad for Rachel. I don't feel bad for Rachel. To an extent, maybe I can show her some grace and empathy, but for the most part, like, she's continuing her lawsuit against Tom Sandoval, which is fine, but against Ariana Madix, which I know I've had my critiques of Ariana, but I still don't believe Ariana deserves to be sued. And I think that the allegations made against Ariana specifically, the allegations against Tom Sandoval are a little tricky, because she's saying that there was invasion of privacy. That's an eavesdropping are the two things that she's really trying to hone in on Sandoval. But, like, even though he may have recorded the FaceTime, and she's saying she didn't know that he recorded the naughty FaceTime of the two of them together, if he wasn't sharing that or releasing that publicly, and it was still only between the two parties, it's going to be interesting how the judge or the jury ultimately weigh on that. Like, was that invasion of privacy? If it was never intended or supposed to be, shared, it was meant to remain private. She was sharing this with him privately, and if he kept it for himself privately, then I don't know if that really is an invasion of privacy beyond the, you know, expectation that they had that this would stay between them. But then she can argue, well, this was a FaceTime, which is live. It's not meant to be recorded. So the invasion of privacy piece is that he continued to hold on to those images beyond whatever. So yeah. We'll see, but the trial is set to happen this November. We'll see what the Scandival trial, what happens there. But let's talk about, the lawsuit. It was and is shady, especially with how it went down. Why go backwards? Exactly. Like, at this point, and listen, now she's like a sound bath healer. And so she's living her best life in Arizona, and she's like, come and I'll heal your chakras. So good for her. Rachel's worst move was not going back on Vanderpump. Yeah, I think that would have really not only saved the show, but I think it would have given her an opportunity to win back the audience, right? You never want to leave on a bad note. You always want to write it out and leave on a high note. And I think she would have had an opportunity to do that. But she made other choices. But the audience will gravitate to the host that they like to get the information from. That should not be taken from the public. You can't keep CNN from reporting what MSNBC reports and whom they interview. I agree. The audience is going to gravitate to whoever they want to get the information from. That's why I don't think that people like Nick Viall need to go to those cheap stunts. But if that's what they're going to do, I have no problem calling it out. When have I ever had a problem calling out somebody's bullshit? Okay, let's move on to Blake Lively grabbing Henry Golding. So there was this, there was a clip on Instagram from Elsie RHOBH, I believe is her actual Instagram account. I did a YouTube live stream on Donna Bowling's podcast with RHOBH, or with Elsie, that's her name. And I think she's funny and talented, and she does a lot of really good videos on, really diving deep into like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and all of that stuff. And so she did a video she found this old interview from Blake Lively from A Simple Favor, not Another Simple Favor. Another Simple Favor is the sequel that's coming out this May, but the original film. And I guess there's this scene, and I remember watching this scene, and so it's this scene of Blake Lively and Henry Golding, who plays her love interest in the film, and she's grabbing him by, I mean, if you want to use the Trump reference, she's grabbing him right in the balls, grabbing him right in the coochie, right? And so I remember this scene because so Blake Lively, for those that haven't watched A Simple Favor, if you haven't watched A Simple Favor, then Blake Lively is this like powerful, I think she's like a marketing executive, and her husband is played by Henry Golding. Not Anna Wintour. Anna Kendrick is a blogger, a mommy blogger. And so her and Blake, their kids go to the same school. They end up becoming friends. Seemingly, Blake's character ends up disappearing, and it appears that she faked her own death, and she, was on the run trying to get away. I believe there was some sort of insurance fraud that or that she was trying to do to take care of her son and to take care of her husband because he was struggling financially. And so we find out that Blake Lively's character, spoiler alert, is not, because she faked her own death, she's still alive. So she ends up coming back and faces her husband, who was unaware of the fact that she faked her own death. And so she comes in scene him and in scene Anna Kendrick's character, because Anna Kendrick's character, Emily, is Blake Emily, Anna Kendrick's character and Henry Golding's character end up having some sort of a fling. They end up falling in love. And so Anna Kendrick ends up replacing Blake Lively as that motherly role. So Blake Lively comes back and is like, you're not going to come and take my family. Like, that's wrong. And so in this moment, you see that she comes and she grabs Henry. She's like, "Urgh." She just goes up and there, she just grabs him by the balls. How I imagine she tried to grab Justin Baldoni by the balls figuratively on the set of It Ends With Us. Seems to be a theme she likes to do. She loves to just hold men by their balls. Anyway, this has now resurfaced because RHOBH shared a clip from, I believe it was like a director's cut interview where they were reviewing this scene. Paul Feig, who's the director of A Simple Favor, he was reviewing this scene where Blake grabs Henry, and they were kind of joking and laughing that this was not in the script. This was actually improvised. Now, if you hear Blake Lively's arguments, she very much is clear that, on the set of It Ends With Us, a lot of the kissing, not the grabbing, right? Let's be clear. Justin Baldoni never grabbed her in any inappropriate way, but she was specific to the kissing and how the kissing was improvised. And Paul Feig, the director of A Simple Favor, even jokes in this clip about how he wanted Blake to grab him harder, because it was just so funny. And so, also worth noting, Henry Golding did do an interview, I believe it was like in 2018. He did an interview and talked about the film, talked about how, this was a closed set. And so there were certain standards and practices that were upheld on the set of A Simple Favor, which then prompted this response from Blake Lively's rep. So in a statement to TMZ, Blake Lively's rep, in response to all of this, says Blake collaborated and reached agreement with the director and her co-star before filming the scene. This is the entire point here, and that is what Mr. Baldoni did not do. The audio commentary reference clearly suggests that she made a creative suggestion, all agreed on it, and it was incorporated through the appropriate filmmaking process. Again, Mr. Baldoni, on the other hand, who was Blake's boss as the director and producer on the film and the head of the studio, decided on his own without asking first that it was okay for him to bite and suck on Blake's lower lip, again, without advance notice or asking for consent during his... Wow, I didn't realize you had to ask for consent before kissing somebody in a kissing scene. During the scene in which he continued to improvise more kissing on each take. This is just one example of the many in Blake's lawsuit against Mr. Baldoni. The attempts to smear Blake have now come so full circle that they are even starting to prove her own point. Again, worth noting, Henry Golding has confirmed these details, that this was on a closed set and this was, I guess, something that he was comfortable with. But I want to really hone in on some of the words that are used in this statement that Blake's rep gave to TMZ, because it seems like they don't have an issue with the making out per se. The issue is with how Justin Baldoni chose to make out with her character, Lily Bloom. So biting and sucking on her lip. That's the big issue. Not that he grabbed her. He didn't grab her butt. He didn't grab up on her breast the way Ryan Reynolds has openly admitting to grabbing Olivia Wilde's breast when they were in their film together. He didn't say, "Ooh, your ass looks so yummy, Blake." Like none of that, right? He, God forbid, didn't grab her by the coochie the way she grabbed Henry Golding by the nuts. Their issue is with the biting and sucking of her lip, which to me, if you're in a makeout scene and it's understood that you guys are going to be making out, sucking on each other's lips and nibbling on a lip, to me, doesn't seem unreasonable. It seems like a reasonable standard of something that would naturally happen when you're filming a scene where two of your love interests are making out. Like, what are they supposed to do? Closed mouth? They're supposed to kiss like this? Like, what? Like when she was saying the dancing montage, like they were just supposed to be dancing intimately. And I was like, what were they supposed to be doing the robot and they weren't allowed to touch? We are going to do a romantic scene and it just says dancing. So we're just going to do the robot, but we can't touch each other because we're doing the robot, you know? Seven Coke says, yet we have seen videos of her biting his lips. That is correct. We've seen footage from the set of her biting his lips. So she did the exact same thing. So even if you want to take out her behavior on the set of A Simple Favor, she did the same thing. Did she ask for consent to bite his lip ahead of time? Was that discussed with the intimacy coordinator? I'm sorry, but if you're making out in a scene and all parties are understanding that, okay, we're going to be making out on a scene, then why are we nitpicking exactly how the makeout is happening? Right? Again, he didn't grab her in an inappropriate way. They were filming a kissing scene where the characters who happen to be love interests. I want to remind everybody this is Ryle and Lily. It's not Blake and Baldoni, right? But the other interesting piece in this statement as well is it says that Justin Baldoni improvised on each take, which number one, when your takes are never going to be exactly the same, which is why they often take multiple takes of a certain scene, right? Your body language, the way you deliver a line, like all of those things can change from scene to scene. CJ says, and Ryle in the book actually bites her a bunch. LOL. He calls himself a scorpion. Wow. There we go. More important context. I haven't read the book like Blake Lively, so I wouldn't know. But thank you, citizen journalist, for that. But so the interesting piece is in the statement, they say that he continued to improvise on each take, which tells me that Blake Lively clearly had an opportunity to speak up, right? We've seen her be very vocal before. We've seen footage from the set where she's directing Baldoni, where she's grabbing his hips and pulling his hips into her hips and telling her, you have to grab me like this, you have to hold me like this. And she's very much trying to direct the scene, right? She was able to insert herself into the editing room alone with Baldoni. I'm surprised she didn't claim that there was any harassment that happened there, but why would you be electively trying to insert yourself into the editing room alone with Mr. Baldoni when you consider him a sexual predator, as your husband has called him? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you're admitting that there were multiple takes that were happening and that, there was improv kissing in every scene, then at what point did you think you should interject? Right? Like, why? First of all, it was a close set. We know that because we have now seen the production schedule for those days, and it was very clearly a closed set. And we have no third party dispute to that. If there is somebody, I mean, Baldoni seems to be naming people left and right in his lawsuit and dropping all the text messages, where in her lawsuit, she's trying to keep everybody anonymous. Interesting choice. But so why wouldn't she, after the first take or even the second take, say, hey, I don't like the lip biting? Maybe she would know that Ryle does like to bite if she read the book, but we know she didn't read the book. But again, why not mention something there? We see that Blake Lively is not meek. She's not afraid to voice her opinion. She's not afraid to talk about anything, right? CJ says, notice now they're not using the dancing scene. Now it's this random lip biting scene. Exactly, because the dancing scene, I think, has already been debunked with the footage that was released, which was very conveniently spliced and chopped up and delivered in that Max documentary, that ID documentary that they did on this, which again, Popcorn Planet, Andy, he has a much, well, I'm trusting that his storytelling will be much more honest. I haven't seen a cut of his documentary, but I know that I was in it, as was Donna Bowling and a number of other people, and I know that, they're trying to do their best to do their due diligence. But so, yeah, I don't understand. They're playing Lily and Ryle. Maybe Lily doesn't like her lip being sucked on, which is fine, but like, why not bring something up in the moment, right? Why wait until months later to then make this allegation? Imagine if after the fact, Henry Golding changed his mind and suddenly was like, now I feel violated by Blake grabbing my junk, which also to me feels like more of a violation than what Blake is claiming Baldoni did. Like, I would think Henry has more of a, like, he was literally, his private parts, his intimate area was specifically grabbed by Blake Lively. Her hand was on his junk. Very different from a kissing scene where, we took a creative liberty and sucked on your lip during a makeout scene. It's just wild. It's more of this rules for thee, but not for me type of behavior. Okay, let's talk about, we'll get into the Jed Wallace thing in a sec, but I also want to talk about this Erika Jayne Marco lawsuit. Because oh boy, I just feel like it's never ending and people love to just jump on Erika and now we're in this let's beat up on Erika Jayne yet again, right? So it's just to me it's kind of exhausting because I'm like, we have beaten this to death, but so a lot of it stems from this attorney. His name is Ronald Richards. But so let's give you a little recap and a little background for those of you that are not familiar with Erika Jayne or not familiar with the original Girardi Keese scandal. Erika Jayne is one of the cast members of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They just finished their 13th season. That Marco thing was sus. We'll get into it in a sec. Let me give a little contextual background for everybody. Zack, did you ask Andy for the dailies? No, I did not ask Andy for the dailies on the documentary. So anyway, Erika Jayne, cast member on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, right? Her husband, Tom Girardi, was a very powerful attorney here in Los Angeles. Erika Jayne was his third wife. Tale as old as time, big age gap, much younger than Tom Girardi. So it was kind of standard that she was like the trophy wife, the pretty blonde trophy wife. He was funding this music career that she wanted, which kind of seemed like a vanity project at the time, but like did start to pick up some momentum. Okay. So ultimately it comes out, she files for divorce in December or in end of November. She files for divorce on election day, interestingly enough, files for divorce from Tom Girardi in 2020. It then comes out, there's this attorney, Jay Edelson of Edelson PC, comes out and accuses her of orchestrating a sham divorce, presumably to hide assets. Then it comes out that there are clients that have not been paid by Tom Girardi. There are these plane crash these families who lost loved ones in a plane crash. There is this, gas explosion that injured this man named Joe Rui Gomez. And so they're claiming that they're owed payments by Tom Girardi. Everybody suddenly starts to come out and claiming that Tom Girardi owes them money. Okay. This was an ongoing saga. Erika's like, holy shit, I didn't know anything about what my husband was doing. I didn't realize that the money that he was collecting was money that was not entitled to him. I didn't know, but also we kind of like wait and need to see this legal process play out before we even know what happened. But this was all seemingly unbeknownst to her. And she's like, listen, my life was lived off of an Amex. He gave me an Amex, and that's how I lived my life. The bills went to his office. His CFO is the one that covered all of the bills. I didn't know how they were paying the bills or what they were doing. I just assumed that they were handling things because that's what I did. Again, trophy wife number 3, you're not asking too many questions about where your older husband is making his money when presumably he is very wealthy and very successful, right? He's got a gorgeous, estate in Pasadena. He's winning all these awards. He's on the cover of magazines. He, knows a lot of very wealthy people and a lot of very notable people, powerful people. Why would you assume that, he's defrauding his clients? Lawsuits were coming up. She was asking questions. She claims he was shutting her down. Now, then fast forward to 2024, we have now seen that Tom Girardi has been convicted. His CFO, Christopher Camone, has pleaded guilty. And so they are both now facing facing the crimes that they committed all these years. And so we have even seen that the CFO, Christopher Camone, had multiple properties here in the US. He was presumably trying to flee the country. He just bought a property in the Bahamas. He was, in my opinion, liquidating assets to then flee to the Bahamas. Like, it was just one big hot mess. We also see that Tom Girardi was buying plastic surgery for judges. He bought Trisha A. Bigelow. I call her Gigolo Bigelow. He bought her a beach house in Santa Monica. He also bought her a new butt when he was cheating on Erika. So all these things came to light, right? Erika has never been charged with a crime. So that was resolved. The Girardi Keese drama, for the most part, was resolved. There was money that Tom Girardi was paying. So with the Amex bill, just to clarify, like Erika said, she lived her life off of this Amex. The bills went to the office. The CFO was paying the bills. Now, over the course of, I believe, 12 years, there was an accumulation of $25-ish million that were spent. Again, over the course of 12 years. That's over a decade. This money was spent. Okay. It was spent on the Amex. The bills were being paid. Well, we now find out that in the tax returns, they were writing off these expenses because they were paying for it with the company money from Girardi Keese, and they were writing it off as loans. Girardi Keese was loaning money to Erika Jayne's LLC. That's how this was being written off on the books. So now the trustee is pursuing a trial against Erika, trying to get her to pay back that 25 mil. I've always said I think there's going to be a statute of limitations issue. They're also going to need to prove that these were loans. Like, it's going to get messy, and we're going to have to see how that plays out in court. But there's this other case with Marco Marco. Now, who is Marco Marco? Marco Marco is this designer. I believe there are two. Marco Marco is the company, but there are two. There are two defendants. There's Marco, and then there's Chris. Celia, I believe is how you pronounce it. But so anyway, there are two founders, Marco Morante and Christopher Celia. They're the two that are suing Erika Jayne. So they are costume designers or outfit designers, I don't know, fashion designers from the company Marco Marco. They're claiming that Erika Jayne committed credit card fraud and then had her Secret Service agents, there's this big conspiracy that she called up the Secret Service and had them come and, arrest them and all this stuff. Were they I believe Christopher, was he arrested? Yes, he was arrested. And so let's explain what happened there. Again, I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm just going to kind of give it to you as openly and objectively. I've always disclosed that since I began covering the Girardi stuff back in 2020, Erika Jayne and I have, built a friendly relationship. I was just with her in New York. I went to go support her on Broadway. She was Roxy Hart in Chicago. She's been on this podcast before. We've been very friendly. No secret there, right? It is hard when I have to talk about these things, but it is what it is. But when it comes to the Marco Marco case specifically, so they were designing outfits for Erika Jayne's performances. And trust me, let's be very clear, they are very successful fashion designers. Their client list includes Britney Spears. It includes Katy Perry. Like, they have a number of high-profile clients. Now, to my understanding, they were running up the Amex bill, and I believe the Amex bill reached about $800,000. Okay. Now, there were no invoices that were ever being given for these expenses. They were kind of just running up the Amex left and right. Erika then said, hold on, you need to provide some invoices for these charges. Like, these are some astronomical charges. $800,000 is a lot for, some outfits that you're going to be performing in on stage, right? It's a lot of money. And I don't know if she had Britney Spears money or Katy Perry money, but that's a lot of money. So they were then not able to provide invoices, and then ended up openly admitting in an email that they did overcharge her. And they're like, we think we may have overcharged you about $100,000. Okay. That's a lot of money to be overcharged. Think about it. If you're overcharged $20 on your credit card, you're not going to dispute that with your bank. You're not going to be like, hold on, that's a fraudulent charge. So that's exactly what happened. She ended up calling American Express and saying, hey, these are fraudulent charges. Ultimately, she did end up sitting down with the two designers, and they admitted to overcharging her. Now, This is not $20. This is not $50. This is not $500. This is not $2,000. They openly admitted to overcharging her about $100,000. That's a lot of money to accidentally do, to say, oops, sorry, you know, whoa, yeah, exactly. So that's why these details matter, because we see the Marco guys, and they're in the latest Hulu documentary about the Girardi case, which is so interesting that the case is about Tom Girardi and Girardi Keys, but you don't really hear much about Christopher Camone, and the entire documentary is focused on Erika Jayne, who's his wife. I get it. You need the clickbait. You want people to tune in for it, right? But so you put the two gays on camera, and they're like, tell us your sad story. And of course, the gays are going to work up the waterworks. They're working up the waterworks, right? They're doing all the things, and they're like, oh my God, oh, she ruined my life. I'm like, your clients are Katy Perry and Britney Spears, and you're telling me the Real Housewife is the one that ruined your life? Because I don't know, last time I checked, your business seems to be doing a-okay, right? Let's actually give them some credit. They want some attention and some love. Here you go. Marco squared, Marco. Oh, he goes by he him pronouns. Good for him. Multi-material artist and maker, 2-time award-winning costume designer, still has an agency. Here's their website, and they show a number of their very impressive costumes. Like, I will give them that. Very creative, very impressive. They do good work. Not going to deny that or take that credit away from them. Seems like they do a lot of drag stars now. So I don't know. To me, they look like they're doing just fine. So when they say Erika Jayne ruined their lives, it's a little hard for me to believe, oh, okay, Erika, they were, yeah, see, Sharon says they were so dramatic in the documentary. Right. And like failed to forget that, like, oops, we overcharged her $100,000. Now they're suddenly claiming, actually, years later in 2025, they're claiming, actually, we can now verify all of the charges, which, how convenient, right? Years later, when you're now pursuing litigation, now suddenly, like, what are you going to nickel and dime and make sure my time is charged appropriately and all this stuff? Now suddenly, we were able to verify all the charges now that we're pursuing litigation against her, which I also found interesting. They're pursuing litigation against her after all of the Girardi drama took place. And let's also be very clear, because they're claiming that Erika harmed their lives, right? Chris and Marco are suing Erika individually, right? So they have 2 active lawsuits against her. This is a Marco lawsuit, but each of the Marco guys is suing her separately in 2 separate states. If you can afford 2 separate lawsuits in 2 separate states, one, that sounds like a legal strategy, and 2, that sounds like you are doing just fine if you can each finance your own lawsuit against Erika. Wait, she should be suing them. Well, so what ended up happening is they admitted it in an email that they overcharged her, and then they also admitted it in a face-to-face meeting with her. Now, they didn't realize that face-to-face meeting, Erika was wearing a wire. And so because they admitted this on mic while, they were meeting with her, it's on the wire, because they admitted this on record, I believe Christopher was the one that was arrested. One of them got arrested, and they were like, oh my God, I had to spend the night in jail. So do people that get a DUI. So it's just, and not to diminish it and not to diminish the experience. And like, that's terrible that they had to, spend a night in jail and that they're fighting this. And I do have some level of empathy, and this may have been an overreach, right? They're claiming that she was colluding with the Secret Service to go and do this. Her story is that, like, yeah, I called somebody that I happen to know that has some authority, and they were able to help me pursue litigation against this guy or hold him accountable for overcharging me. Now, I will say this. I don't know if she's going to get out of this fully clean. Because at some point, whatever the amount was, there were goods and services that were provided to Erika and were charged to her Amex. And I believe at some point she's going to have to pay them something. Unfortunately, I don't love that for her, but that's just kind of the reality. I think that, as much as I know she has the evidence on her side in terms of the overcharging of 100,000, but if they're only able to prove that 100,000 was overcharged, then what about the remaining, 700-ish thousand? I think the sketchy pieces, the invoices all these years later that can suddenly, substantiate every single charge, I think that's kind of fishy for me. I don't know what the statute of limitations issues are on this, but I don't know. Susan says, "What BS? They screwed up billing. They have to eat the loss." Sorry. Well, it's also just like, how do you just continue to charge somebody up to nearly $1 million and then be like, "Oops, we accidentally overcharged you 100 grand." Like, that's just insane. And also, how do you not have proper accounting where you're keeping track of all these expenses? Again, you have high profile clients, or is it that you have high profile clients that you can get away with stuff like this because they're not going to look at any of it? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. So there's that. But then let's talk about. Here's where it's going to get interesting. We'll get into the Jed Wallace stuff in a sec. Let's talk about this from Mr. Ronald Richards, aka Ronald McDonald, who posted this tweet. And Ron loves to do this stuff, right? So Ron Richards tweeted out, Erika Girardi is facing a default in Marco Morante's Florida case. Because remember, Marco is suing her in Florida. Chris is suing her in California. 2 active lawsuits. Strange, whatever. He's one of the founders of Marco. Christopher Sala is suing her in California. This arises out of a failed Secret Service case against Sala. And then he references her widely reported benefactor. Again, so what he likes to do is he likes to use a lot of hyperbole, and he likes to put a lot of sauce on this. Who is Ronald Richards? I like to call him Ronald McDonald because I think he's a clown, and I know he doesn't like when I call him that. So sorry, Ron, if you're seeing this. I don't mean to call you Ronald McDonald, but I like to call you Ronald McDonald when you act like a clown, okay? So he likes to do a lot of this. Hyperbole, sensationalism. Let me spice it up and get the media all fired up, and then they quote me as a source. First of all, I don't know if he's a legitimate source. Who is Ronald Richards? Ronald Richards is, in my opinion, an ambulance chaser, and he likes to attach himself to celebrity cases and tweet a lot of hyperbole so that people will follow him and trust him as some sort of authority in the case. Is he an attorney? Sure. Has he threatened me? Yes, because he doesn't like my coverage of him. He's a strange character. I've tried a number of times to, be in good graces with Ronald Richards, but I will continue to call out his ridiculous behavior. And this is another example of it. So what is facing a default? So here he's basically saying that Erika in the Florida case did not file a motion to dismiss. And because she didn't file a motion to dismiss, the case will likely default and move forward because there was no motion to dismiss. Okay. As we've learned with the Blake and Baldoni stuff, with Blake, with Baldoni, we're seeing these motions to dismiss. And we're also learning that a lot of, motions to dismiss don't ever move forward. It's kind of just a legal procedure. It kind of delays things, as we're seeing with Blake Lively and Jed Wallace and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and their motions to dismiss and Leslie Sloan's motion to dismiss, all of that, right? We're seeing that motions to dismiss are very standard, but you often don't win a motion to dismiss. So what he's saying is that she didn't file her motion to dismiss in Florida, so the case is automatically going to move forward. Is that true? Sure. Is that standard? Yeah. Was she likely going to win a motion to dismiss? Probably not. It's very hard to win a motion to dismiss. Very rarely happens. It's standard, but it's just moving forward. Yanni says, it's default judgment because Erika's attorney effed up on something. No, he didn't F up on something. He just didn't file a motion to dismiss. Why? I don't know. Maybe they decided not to. Again, I'm not Erika's attorney. I'm not Erika. I don't speak to her about her legal matters. I, keep my work and her personal legal drama separate, right? So no, her lawyer didn't screw up. We don't know why he didn't file a motion to dismiss. You don't have to file a motion to dismiss. But again, this is what Ronald Richards does, is he makes it seem like this little benign piece of information is so much bigger than it actually is. Look, here you go. Jordan says, Ask Two Lawyers said that it's a legal strategy to not file because you don't want to show all your cards to the other party. Possibly. Again, possibly a legal strategy. Hey, Zack, popping on to show your support. Thank you, Ray. So yeah, it's actually very standard. I would trust the Ask Two Lawyers guys way more than I would trust the ambulance chaser Ronald McDonald. He's a clown. And here you want to know what makes him even more of a clown and less reputable. Let's talk about this for a second and his obsession with Erika. So who is this woman? Actually, who was that in the live chat that was like, oh, Yanni. Hey, Yanni. Hey, girl. Why don't we talk about this woman right here? Who's this woman? Lauren Boyetts Richards, Ronald Richards' wife. Why am I showing you this photo of her on a beach or her in front of the ocean with Chanel sunglasses on and these diamond earrings? Oh, yeah. These are Erika Jayne's diamond earrings that were put up for auction amid the Girardi legal saga. Ronald Richards went and paid a discount price for Erika Jayne's diamond earrings and now has his wife cosplaying with them on Instagram. And that's not my accusation. Her caption on Instagram, and this is her public Instagram account, her Lauren Boyett Richards says, "I now see why you fought for these." And then she tags Erika Jayne. So they're essentially taunting her on Instagram. They are stunning. Should I have Girardi removed? Hashtag Girardi fraud, hashtag diamond earrings. You're going to tell me Ronald Richards is a credible source on anything related to Erika Jayne when his obsession with her has gone so deep that he has purchased her jewelry at a discount because it was purchased at auction and then has his wife parading them online? Like, you're going to tell me that's not creepy? And then they're going to taunt her with the earrings publicly on Instagram? So you're going to tell me Ronald Richards and his wife are credible people when this is the shit that they're pulling. So when they cover the Marco case, let's be very clear. It comes with a whole shit ton of bias because people want to say I'm biased. I'm disclosing that I have a friendship with Erika now. It was developed over the course of time, but there is a friendship now. And I'm still going to say when it comes to the Marco case, I don't know if she's going to fully win that. And there are 2 lawsuits against her with that. So even if she doesn't win one, like, I don't know. I'm not fully confident. But again, I'm not her attorney. I can only cover it from my layman's perspective. But so, yeah, let's not talk about Ronald Richards being all that credible when this is the shit he does. It's gross. It's creepy. It's weird. It's weird. Tell me I'm crazy. It's fucking creepy. So yeah. Zach, have you ever thought about going to law school? I mean, I don't know. I don't think you have to go to law school anymore. I think if you like intern, like you can take the bar without having to go to law school in California. So I don't know. Yeah, Jordan said it's giving stalker. Yeah, and you know what's even weirder? What's even creepier? Let me see if I have this. Give me 1 second. I think I may actually have. Maybe not. There was an episode from August where Ronald Richards went on So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. And he likes to go on these podcasts often, and podcasters will give him a platform to peddle his bullshit, and it is what it is. But so Ronald Richards went on So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey back in August of last year, August 2024. And the interesting thing is he was talking about Erika and the earrings. And the way he spoke about the earrings and the buyer, he made it seem like this was an ambiguous, unknown buyer that came into the auction and purchased the earrings. And he's like, and I don't think that buyer will ever give up the earrings. The owner of the earrings now is never going to give up those earrings. And I was like, why is he talking about the owner as if he's not the one that purchased these earrings? And I text Ryan and I reached out to Ryan that week. And I was like, dude, you just had on Ronald Richards. He's literally on your podcast. Like, you're giving this man a platform to talk about this anonymous buyer of these earrings when he's literally the one that purchased the earrings. I believe he purchased them for like 200 grand or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but he purchased them at a significant discount outside of peddling conspiracies that Erika had a secret second pair of earrings. That's what he was alluding to, but he likes to lean into a lot of that speculation. And this is what he does, but he doesn't disclose things like this, which again, to me is creepy that you're going to have your wife cosplay as this woman that you can't stop talking about. Could you imagine how creepy it would be of me to, I don't know, buy Blake Lively's dress from A Simple Favor, or Yeah, and then put it on my significant other and then post a photo of him wearing Blake Lively's dress on Instagram. That would be creepy, right? That would be weird. That would also make it seem like I may have a creepy obsession with Blake Lively, which I don't. I'm just covering the legal drama with her and Justin Baldoni. This shit with the earrings is fucking weird and creepy. I don't know if he has some pretty mess outfits that he makes Lauren dress up in as well. It's creepy. It's weird. And as Ryan Reynolds disclosed in his motion to dismiss, we're allowed to have opinions. That's my opinion. It's fucking weird. That said, his wife must be getting secondhand earrings from her husband. His wife must feel special getting secondhand earrings from his husband. Not only are they secondhand earrings, but they say Girardi on them. They have Erika's name engraved on them. It's weird. Yanni says, ew, please. I don't even want to imagine them doing things. That's what they're doing. What did Ryan respond? Oh, well, I won't read his text messages because that's private. But like, he was basically like, oh, I didn't know. He's like, can I? And I gave him all the information, and I was like, listen, here's all the accurate information about the earrings. And he's like, am I allowed? Do I have your permission to share this on the show? And I was like, sure. To my knowledge, he didn't share any of those details on his show after I shared the details with him in August. So listen, it's his show. It's his choice. He can have on whoever he wants to have on. He can discuss whatever he wants to discuss, and he can disclose things or not. I don't know. He's a talented podcaster. He's a nice guy. So, but what he chooses to do with his show creatively is not up to me. It's what it is. Weirdo stalker vibe. Yeah, Ronald Richards is definitely giving stalker vibes. It's just, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. It's creepy. Okay. So that's the Marco stuff. Let's see. Is there anything else I left out about the Marco? Yeah, they have high profile clients. They seem to be doing well. 2 lawsuits in California and Florida. Yep, covered that. She may have to pay something. Yeah, I mean, she may end up having to pay something in the end if this does move forward. But again, the fact that each of these guys, Chris and Marco, are each suing her in 2 different states, it feels a bit retaliatory. They're clearly using the press to kind of get their narrative out there. They had a platform on Hulu to go and cry about how their lives have been ruined. Which, I don't want to negate, but they seem to be doing just fine, especially if they can afford to launch 2 different lawsuits against her individually. I think you guys are doing A-okay. We'll see. Is this her last lawsuit that she will have to face? Well, she has the 2 Marco lawsuits, and then she has the Girardi Keys trustee that's going to try and sue her for the $25 million that they're claiming she owes back to Girardi Keys. We'll have to see how that plays out. 1,000 people watching. Hit the like button, guys, if you're enjoying this. And yeah, hit the like button, subscribe. I believe we're getting close to 92,000. We were just about to hit 91,000 yesterday. We're just approaching 92,000. So we're getting there. We're moving and grooving. Let's get it. Okay, let's talk about the Jed Wallace stuff. But really quickly, I have my Daddy Sleuth shirt on today. Woo, woo, which I want to remind everybody is available for purchase. Through Merch Labs. You can go to nofiltermerch.com. You can get my Daddy Sleuth shirts. You can get Justice for Justin shirts as well. There are a number of different designs that you can get. So this is the Justice for Justin shirt. And like I said, from now until April 11th, I'm going to donate 50% of my proceeds from merch sales to the No More Foundation in support of survivors of domestic violence, of DV and SV. So if you want to support, you can. You can get a Justice for Justin shirt. You can get a Daddy Sleuth shirt. You can get a Mommy Sleuth shirt. All the classic Zack Pack merch as well. You don't have to buy that, but if you would like to buy any of that, 50% of my proceeds from any sales made between now and April 11th, I will donate to No More. So I have a number in mind. I have a goal in mind. I want to hit that goal. We're getting very close to that goal. So if you can, show some love, show some support so we can make sure we give a nice, good donation to the No More Foundation. All right, guys, let's do this. We can do it together. Let's do it. We're all in this together. Diane says, Zack, I bought my Mommy Sleuth shirt and Justice for Justin yesterday. Yay! Guys, keep the sales coming. I'm hoping that we can have a really good number. We have 1 week left. So 1 week left. Danielle says, I ordered my shirt last week and got my sweatshirt that was lost in my move, but not the Justice for Justin shirt. Yeah, so the original merch items were, I believe, already available when you ordered them. These are new ones. The Justice for Justin, Mommy Sleuth, and Daddy Sleuth, those were being made as we were selling them. So there may be a bit of a delay in getting those because they have to actually print them and make them, and then they're going to send them out because this was a quicker turnaround. And I'm very grateful to Merch Labs for being able to do this big turnaround. Tiffany says, Zach, do you know where you're at yet with donations? I do know where I'm at, and it's very close to the goal that I want to hit. It's a good number. Like when my manager called me and he's like, guess how much we've raised so far? And I was like, what? It's a good number. So yes, Zach, that is such a good cause. Justin would be proud. Listen, we're talking about all this. Let's at least try to, do some good in it. So get your orders. Go to nofiltermerch.com. That's nofiltermerch.com. Or you can, here, I'll put the link in the live chat order here. The link is also in the description below. So if you're listening to this on Apple or watching this on Spotify, there is a link in the description below that you can click on that'll take you directly to the merch store. So go on out. Let's get it. Let's get it. Zack Pack t-shirt just now. Yay! Diane she ordered the Zack Pack t-shirt. Let's get it. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Okay, let's talk about Jed Wallace. Actually, I was gonna recap this and I was gonna talk about it or go through the documents, but this Leanne Newton on X, I think, did a phenomenal job of recapping the initial. She recaps a lot of stuff on X, and I thought she did a really good job of breaking down Blake Lively's motion to dismiss against Jed Wallace. So I figured I'll just break it down here for you. So we'll read through her stuff. That. What framing do we like better? I guess this one. I want to read through hers because I just thought it was really funny and she did a really good job and the snark is perfect. So rather than recapping it directly, I'm just going to recap hers and I encourage everybody to go and follow Leanne Newton, because she's hilarious. So, and she gave a satirical mini argument for Jed Wallace in response to Blake Lively. Okay, so here's the first one in the introduction and summary of the argument. And so Miss Lively argues, in this case, despite Mr. Wallace's boasts about his clandestine abilities, he and his company got caught. Even without discovery, the facts available to Miss Lively already show that Mr. Wallace and Street Relations joined and actively participated in the conspiracy to bury Miss Lively and destroy her reputation for speaking up about sexual harassment. And then Leanne argues on behalf, or satirically argues on behalf of Jed Wallace by saying, Miss Lively has failed to state any facts that point to any actions taken by Mr. Wallace to discredit or bury Miss Lively beyond questionably obtained text messages, which Miss Lively either knew at the time she obtained them, mischaracterized their context to bend to her narrative, but did not care, or she did not know, but should be aware now given the contents of Wayfarer's first amended complaint. Really strong argument here. There are no facts. Blake has not presented any facts. She's made allegations of astroturfing, but again, where's the proof that there was astroturfing done? Like, let's get into it, right? And then also the text messages with the presumably fake subpoena or not fully valid subpoena. We don't know. There's not a lot of clarity with the subpoena, which is why Stephanie Jones is now being looped into everything and being dragged. I believe Leanne also does a deep dive into Stephanie Jones as well. Either way, none of the evidence supports Miss Lively's allegations, even if there was truth in Miss Lively's allegations regarding a retaliatory campaign, which is disputed. Mr. Wallace has no motive for participating in any action with the intended retaliate for speaking up about sexual harassment. Mr. Wallace has not been accused of harassment despite Miss Lively's efforts to recklessly tarnish him with the same brush in her CRD. Then we get into Blake's next argument. To be clear, the Wallace parties did not dispute that a conspiracy existed or that any members of the conspiracy established sufficient contacts with New York, but only that the Wallace parties did not join the conspiracy. In support of that contention, the Wallace parties rely exclusively on a self-serving declaration from Mr. Wallace himself, which asserts in conclusory fashion that he did not join the conspiracy. And then Leanne argues satirically on behalf of Jed Wallace. Leanne writes, Mr. Wallace is hardly in a position to dispute facts regarding an alleged conspiracy that he did not participate in and has no knowledge of. In the same vein, Miss Lively is clearly not in a position to assert facts about Mr. Wallace's involvement in an alleged conspiracy that she is not in possession of, and this is evident in her response to the motion to dismiss. She writes from Blake Lively's team. At this stage, the amended complaint's more than plausible, allegations trump Mr. Wallace's declaration, which the court cannot even consider at this stage without first allowing discovery into Mr. Wallace's participation in the conspiracy. Discovery that will only confirm that Miss Lively was able to allege based on text messages and emails she obtained thus far. Interesting. Leanne writes, at the beginning of her response, Miss Lively alleged that she has more than enough evidence without discovery. Now she's contradicting herself by arguing that discovery is needed. Miss Lively appears to be confused. I agree. You can't say that I have enough evidence to destroy him in court, but also I don't have enough evidence to move forward. What? You think we just fell out of a coconut tree, Blake? Okay. Okay, then Leanne gets into the background. And so here's another excerpt from Blake Lively. Miss Lively raised complaints about that conduct to Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and others as early as spring 2023. She later reiterated those same concerns, and others negotiated a contract writer through which It Ends With Us Movie LLC agreed to 17 protections. I don't know why protections are in quotes, but 17 protections. And again, is it 17, is it 20, or is it 30? Because you keep changing the story. Again, you think we fell out of a coconut tree? 17 protections for the film's return to production. And as agreed to in those protections, reiterated those concerns again to Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath at a January 4th, 2024 all-hands meeting. Leanne responds satirically on behalf of Jed Wallace. Again, the claims against Mr. Wallace do not track back to the event above that Miss Lively has outlined, as no complaints were ever raised against Mr. Wallace, and Mr. Wallace was not present at any meetings, nor did he sign any agreement for protections. Mr. Wallace has no knowledge of any harassment allegations that Miss Lively has alleged, and absolutely has no incentive to participate in any retaliation against Miss Lively for making her complaints. Miss Lively has failed to state any motives Mr. Wallace would have to undertake this action. To advance those unlawful objectives, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath enlisted a number of co-conspirators, including Mr. Baldoni's. Oh, wait, is this? Yeah, this is still. To advance those unlawful objections, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath enlisted a number of co-conspirators, including Mr. Baldoni's billionaire partner, Steve Sorowitz, who promised to spend $100 million to ruin Miss Lively's family's lives. Sorry, I guess that was another direct quote from Lively. And then Leanne responds satirically on behalf of Jed Wallace. Miss Lively seemed particularly fixated with Mr. Sorowitz and the size of his bank account. Mr. Wallace is not Mr. Sorowitz, nor does he have $100 million. And even if he ever did, he wouldn't waste it on a pair of egotistical narcissists like Miss Lively and her husband, Mr. Reynolds. We move on. Blake Lively writes, Miss Nathan's plan proposed strategies to advance misleading counter-narratives, including pushing Miss Nathan's narrative that Miss Lively had a less than favorable reputation. And then Leanne writes, with regards to concern that Miss Nathan was pushing a narrative that Miss Lively's reputation was less than favorable, Mr. Wallace cannot comment, as he would have no interest in her character's unlawful wardrobe. Miss Lively's awful hair care products, which frustratingly do not include a conditioner. Oh, interesting. No wonder her hair's so damn dry. And he has no intentions of grabbing his friends and florals when he goes to see the movie. So she's debunking all of these things because it seems like Blake Lively keeps bringing in, this conspiracy with Justin Baldoni and Steve Zorowitz and Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel and how they were all colluding in all of this. And Mr. Wallace is just like, I literally have no part in all of this. And I think Leanne's making really good points. We'll do one more. This is number 6. There are several others, but I encourage you to follow Leanne Newton directly, and you can get more of these. They're really funny. She does a lot of snark in her stuff. But so from Blake Lively, she writes, Mr. Wallace and Street Relations got to work seeding and manipulating and advancing disparaging content on social media platforms and the internet chatter forums, including specific platforms that Miss Abel told Mr. Baldoni they would focus on, like Reddit, TikTok, and Instagram. And then Leanne writes satirically on behalf of Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace and the rest of the world are still waiting for even a speck of evidence to corroborate this. Miss Lively seems to heavily rely upon the hearsay statements of others in text messages, which were manipulated and presented out of context in a completely misleading manner to further serve her self-serving narrative. Lively writes, on August 9th, Miss Abel, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, Miss Nathan, and other members of the tag team exchanged text messages to celebrate the narrative that was shifting online to pointing the finger at Ryan being overly involved. Leanne responds, that narrative of a person who was not Mr. Wallace, as well-founded and accurate. Miss Lively herself made the declaration, my husband wrote the rooftop scene, nobody knows that now but you. And my husband is involved in everything I do. He's all over this movie. What specifically about her own statements does Miss Lively object to someone who is not Mr. Wallace saying? As it currently and will stand, there is more evidence of Mr. Reynolds' authorized involvement in this movie than there is Mr. Wallace's involvement in any retaliation campaign against Miss Lively or anyone else for that matter. And then she has another point about the Wayfair parties. She has 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So I highly suggest you give her a follow. She's got a great account. She's really funny. I follow her. You can follow her too. You should follow her too. Lots of snark, lots of sass. Always a good time. Blake is throwing spaghetti at the wall again. All of what she's done is throwing spaghetti at the wall. Her hair does look dry. So that's the shade. I didn't realize she didn't have conditioner in her hair care line. Now it makes sense. That's all I'm saying. Now it makes sense. But now we get it. So, yeah, I guess this is where I leave you. I don't know if there's any. We talked about the A Simple Favor stuff. We talked about Leanne's in the live chat. Thank you so much, Zack. Thank you. It was funny. Rather than me reading through it all page by page or throwing my own shade, I was like, listen, Leanne did even better shade and she's doing a great job. So go give her some love and a follow. All right, guys. This is the end. This is where I leave you. But just a reminder, all merch in the merch store, nofiltermerch.com. That's nofiltermerch.com. Go and get your Justice for Justin shirts. You can get your Mommy Sleuth, your Daddy Sleuth shirts. They all have the lotus flower on it, which is a universal symbol for supporting domestic violence awareness. There's a same thing on the Justice for Justin shirts, but go place your orders. Let's raise some good money for the No More Foundation. Thank you guys for all your love, your support. I appreciate you so, so much. You can give me a follow at Just Plain Zack all over the internet. Follow the podcast at No Filter with Zack on Instagram. And please, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave an Apple Podcast review, or you can do 5 stars, right? You can just rank it 5 stars. If you don't want to write a full review, totally, you can do 5 stars every single time you listen to the podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps the show. It helps us grow, and it helps people know that we got good tea. So you can trust No Filter. I don't block other podcasts like Nick Vial. I don't, sprinkle the hyperbole on like Ronald Richards, nor am I buying any earrings and having my partner parade on them on Instagram. I'm always going to give it to you 100%, 100K for real estate. What 100K for real estate? CJ said, I'm going to do the podcast to share the Erika Jayne story. I love it. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. Talk to you later. Ciao for now. Have a good one.